Okay, so when you hear the word cryptocurrency, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Digital money, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum. But what if I told you its biggest, most revolutionary innovation isn't about money at all? What if it's about time? Yeah, you heard that right. Today we're going to dive into how blockchain technology is completely rewriting the rules on the very concept of when. I mean, we all just kind of take time for granted, don't we? You glance at your phone, you see the time, and that's that. It feels solid, universal, a simple truth. But let's just pause for a second and ask a weird question. What if that shared feeling of now isn't as universal as you think? What if it's actually being controlled by someone else? Because, in the digital world, that's exactly what's happening. The entire history of our online lives is being written down, minute by minute, in a language of time that, frankly, we have zero control over. All right, so let's start with what I like to call the centralized now. To really get what's so different about blockchain's approach, we first have to understand the world we're living in right now. Our entire digital existence is basically built on a foundation of trust. Every single thing you do online, you're just trusting some central system to tell you and everyone else what time it happened. No, seriously, think about it. Every time you send money, shoot off an email, like a photo, even sign a digital document, all of that gets a timestamp from a central server. And who owns that server? A bank, a tech giant, maybe a government. We're just trusting them. We're trusting their clock is right, and we're trusting that they won't or can't go back and fiddle with that timestamp later on. It's all trust. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. It's the core difference. On one side, you've got our traditional way of doing things. It's controlled by one entity, it's all based on trust, and, well, that history can be changed. But then you look at the blockchain way. Time isn't dictated. It's agreed upon by a massive decentralized network. It's not based on trust, it's based on pure math. And that history, it's permanent. So that begs the question, right? If there's no big official clock in the sky, how on earth does a global network of thousands of computers all agree on the order of events? Well, that brings us to blockchain's really elegant solution. It creates its own digital heartbeat. It's pretty cool. Let's break down how it works. So here's the absolute key takeaway. The network doesn't look to an outside source for the time. It doesn't need to. It literally creates its own time. It's this amazing, self-contained system for understanding the sequence of events, for building its own history. And this whole new concept of time actually has a name. It's called block time. And it's not measured in the seconds and minutes that we're all used to. Nope. Instead, time is measured by the steady, sequential addition of these things called blocks. And this process, it creates this incredible rhythm, this digital heartbeat for the whole network. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into this idea of time measured in blocks. What does that digital heartbeat, that network rhythm, actually look like when the rubber meets the road? This is super interesting. You can actually see the different rhythms, the different heartbeats of major blockchains. Take Bitcoin, for example. A new block, which is like a new tick of its clock, gets added roughly every 10 minutes. But then you look at a network like Ethereum, and its heartbeat is way, way faster. We're talking a new block about every 12 seconds. Big difference. And here is kind of the magic behind it all. It's a simple but powerful process. A new block gets created. It gets a timestamp. Then, and this is the important part, it's cryptographically linked, like with a digital fingerprint, to the block that came right before it. This process just repeats over and over, forming this unbreakable chain of events where every single link is permanently fused to the one before it. Now, this is a really important point to get. Block time isn't trying to be some hyper-precise atomic clock that can tell you the exact nanosecond something happened. That's not the goal. The goal is to create an absolutely indisputable sequence of events. So we might not know the exact microsecond block 800,000 was created, but we know with 100% certainty that it happened before block 800,001. That part is not up for debate. So this leads us to some pretty profound implications, doesn't it? I mean, what does it actually mean for all of us when we suddenly have the ability to create a digital history that is completely unchangeable? Yeah. This quote just nails it. The first ever objective digital history. Just let that sink in for a second. The power in that phrase is huge. Before blockchain, all digital history was editable. It was always based on trusting someone not to change it. This is something totally new. It's a history that's truly objective. So what? Why does this matter in the real world? Well, think about it. With this kind of unchangeable time, you could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that a digital contract was signed after a big event, not before. A journalist could prove they published a sensitive story on a specific date, making it impossible for anyone to claim it was faked or backdated. It's all about giving our digital stuff a permanent, unbreakable sense of when. And that right there is the fundamental shift we're talking about. We are moving away from a system where history is secured by a company you have to trust to a system where history is locked in place by pure, cold, hard mathematics and the massive amount of energy and computing power of the entire global network. It's a totally different paradigm. Okay, all of this brings us to one last really powerful way to think about this whole idea. We're not just talking about a new kind of clock here. We're talking about a completely new way of moving through history itself. So the next time you hear people talking about blockchain, I want you to try and remember this. So often, the conversation gets totally stuck on money, on prices going up and down, but its real significance, the truly world-changing part, is so much deeper than that. Think of it like this. Blockchain isn't just a fancy way to record history. It's a technology that creates a fundamentally new and you could argue more truthful way of understanding our own past. It is, for all intents and purposes, a time machine that can only ever move forward. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? You know, in a world where almost everything in our digital lives can be edited, deleted, or just flat out manipulated, what does it really mean when, for the very first time, we create a version of the past that simply cannot be changed?